Paralyze is going to disappoint you. Some say this of the upcoming life simulation game that has, by some, been called not only a Sims competitor, but even a Sims killer. As this person puts it, some of you have way too high of expectations. Seriously, this game is going to be released in an extremely bare bones state. This is a small team, and can you even imagine how long it takes to make a couch that can be extended like we've seen? When the game comes out, the Steam reviews are going to be mixed, I can guarantee it. What do I do? We need more build items. I did everything in about 5 hours. The Sims team and such does so much better. Everyone is going to say it isn't a Sims killer, which of course it won't be. To think it is actually pretty insane. The Sims has a community around it which has grown over decades. Tons of DLC have been released in The Sims, adding more and more content. The team behind the game is way larger for The Sims than it is for Paralives. All I'm saying is to lower expectations. So what to make of this? Is Paralives actually going to release bare bones as they say? And are tons of people going to be disappointed? So first, we're going to actually start looking at the early access promise features. I know I have shown the early access promise features before, but it has been a while and it might have been adjusted. In my opinion, it's really important to be aware of what the team is actually saying is going to come rather than what you wish is going to come. And then we're going to break down some of this argument because I find it pretty interesting. Now, if by chance you forget, Paralives is coming out in early access on December 8th. And I gotta say, I cannot believe it is that soon, which we will get into a little later into this video. There are going to be features that are available on day one of early access and also those that are planned to come out during early access. That's also important to distinguish, and I can understand if you get those two mixed up in your mind. I know I do too. So what we know so far is there is going to be an open world town, which we've seen some previews of, a day-night cycle, work, which notably are all rabbit holes right now, career progression, personality traits, emotions, wants, skills, and needs, pretty basic things, social interactions, relationship development, multi-selecting characters, a cooking system, house fires, which we've also seen, bills, having children, aging, character autonomy, shops and restaurants, museums and collections, and also some modding tools. Now, as far as planned to come out during early access, day one, we will not have weather and seasons. However, weather and seasons will come out at some point during early access. There's also going to be a calendar added, a family tree, pets like cats, dogs, and horses, cars and bikes, boats and houseboats, swimming, story progression, gardening and fishing, organizing social events, tools to edit and create towns, and of course, more personality traits, wants, emotions, and jobs. This is just for live/live mode, however you say it. I always say it as live mode. I know some people don't think that is correct. My personal opinion, I've given this in the past, my biggest concern is adding story progression at a later date, potentially family tree, although that might not be as difficult. But some of you have argued that story progression, you'd rather them take their time. And yes, I do understand the argument on both sides. Regardless, I would definitely not say this is bare bones. However, notably, the features available on day one of early access are quite different than adding all the features that are also available during early access. So if someone does come in and expect all the features on day one of early access, yeah, they're probably going to have a different reaction when they figure out there are no seasons and there's no weather yet. Also, let me know in the comments below, do you think this is wise to release on day one of early access these features? Do you feel they would be better to wait longer and just have all these features on day one? I don't have a strong opinion on most of them, but I do think it's an interesting discussion. Also, as a reminder, this is a little bit different because Paralives does not plan to have any paid DLC whatsoever. So even after we're out of early access, it's going to be all free updates. Now, I have talked about this and I have an unpopular opinion that I've given on my channel, and I know most of you don't like it. A lot of people say I've been brainwashed by The Sims, but we can revisit that topic on another day. Now I want to get into some other commentary because I think this is all very interesting, as I would agree that Paralives is under enormous pressure. I would not say, however, that all that pressure is negative, because there is a difference between really unrealistic expectations and also still trying to hold a game accountable for being a good experience. Now, we do have some interesting examples, however, unfortunately, this is not really that comparable because this person is talking about Inzoi. While the Inzoi launch has a lot of the same discourse about being a Sims killer or being its own game, of course, Inzoi Inzoi is being produced by Krafton, which is a major gaming company, and also the direction they took the game. Of course, they went with a realistic style, including using generative AI art. However, I still found this comment pretty interesting. You mean how Inzoi dropped and everyone defends it, saying it's early access? Like, no, a game being early access, as you said, is an unfinished product, does not defend it from valid criticism. Also, with Inzoi being done by a AAA studio, which I just pointed out, unlike Paralives, is even more so a reason not to scream early access. I hope the same for Paralives. I have been following Paralives for years now, even donated a Patreon at one time. I especially won't glaze the product I donated money if my critique ultimately makes the game better. Now, I will say I actually feel there are some good points here. Number one, it is important to say this is early access, and yes, Paralives is a smaller company. I would say that you have to be realistic of your expectations, but we also need to be willing to invite critique and criticism. There's a difference between just shutting it down and review bombing it if it's not really very genuine. If you leave a review where you say, these are the factors I really love about this game, but it's pretty weak in these areas, honestly, I feel like the team would probably appreciate that. The team is very open to feedback, and the purpose of early access is to get that constructive feedback. Of course, the difference here is constructive. And so I would argue people being disappointed isn't necessarily a bad thing if it leads to better things in the future. But if it's just simply this game is terrible and has no room for growth, obviously that's not going to be helpful for the team. I will agree, just because it's early access and just because it's a small team doesn't mean we shouldn't have any critique whatsoever. That doesn't invite a room for growth and progression. And so it's that balance of trying to figure out what is a reasonable expectation, but also what can we do to push this game to be the best it can be. I would also argue another thing that worries me is the Paralyzed team promotion leading into early access. This is another area of contention where some people definitely disagree with me, which is totally fine, but I'm still gonna give my opinion. And my opinion is, I love seeing all the behind the scenes of Paralyzed. I love the Patreon posts, I love to see the showcases, and I actually like the trailers quite a bit too. The team is really responsive and open, and I admire that so much about them. That aside, there is a criticism that we haven't seen enough of actual gameplay. While we have seen the general mechanics and animations, we haven't actually seen footage very much in live mode. Now, I do understand this could come with some backlash. Remember Life by You? Yes, that was pretty rough. However, arguably they should be at a state where it is able to be shown. And I would say just a small showcase before early access launch would be so great. Personally, I would love if they did a live stream. Again, I do know this is going to invite some criticism. That said, I still feel this is a valid critique. The dev team hasn't shown enough gameplay content. That didn't bother me in the early stages, but as we approach the release in December, I'm craving more. We've seen so many Paramaker showcases and building that the gameplay pales in the comparison. It's starting to look more like a dress-up gameplay building simulator than an actual live simulation game. I'm not asking for anything complex, just a little bit more. And again, I agree with this. Even if I do believe this is going to be a good live simulation game, we need to actually work on that perception. And yes, don't get me wrong, Paralyzed so far has been really good in terms of its following and support. There is no doubt that they have achieved some incredible things, but I still think this is something that is good to consider. And then finally, is this really about it being a Sims competitor? I have spoken about this before, about it being a Sims competitor or a Sims killer. At the end of the day, it needs to do well for itself. But the good news about this team is they're open to criticism. That doesn't mean I'm not worried at all about the launch of Paralyze. I am, but I'm also excited. Both things can be true at once. So let me know what you think about this in the comments below. As always, thanks so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.